Susan Gardner here for Municipal World. We're at the 2019 Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in beautiful Quebec City. Joining me in the Municipal World Media Centre is Mayor Leonard Krog from the city of Nanaimo, BC. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
I wanted to take this opportunity to check in with you while we're here in Quebec City and joining with municipal leaders, of course, from across the country, and find out what's happening in Nanaimo and chat a little bit with you.
Well, all small town mayors are supposed to be boosters of their community, so I won't disappoint.
Okay.
But in my case, I can say it with complete confidence. Things are doing well in Nanaimo on many levels. Good governance has been restored, which was certainly one of the main issues in the campaign. We have a largely new council. The two who were re-elected, very good councillors, both of them, but 7 new people, including myself.
So, good governance, that was one of your platforms for your campaign. Tell us a little bit about that.
I don't want to dwell on the past. It's not time to look in the rearview mirror too much. One should be looking through the windshield. However, having said that, there were certainly issues. Council was very divided. The mayor's life was made very difficult. He couldn't manage a majority on many occasions. There were behaviors which were reported nationally that were less than becoming for adults, and a breakdown in the relationship with our Nanaimo First Nation. Certainly not a lot was happening in terms of progress. That is very much history now. Very much history.
That's great. So around civil behavior, certainly it's an issue that we see as an issue in communities right across the country. And I think it's fair to say we see a rise in those kinds of things being reported and some very toxic behavior in our communities, within the council chambers, sometimes between council members and community members and vice versa. What do you attribute that to?
I wish I had a simple answer. I think part of it is that the behavior of President Trump and some other leaders in the world has lessened the standards. I think that people have become a little lax about who they elect, how much attention they pay to voting. Certainly in Nanaimo, our voter turnout went up by about 6-7% to close to 40% in the last municipal election, so people were paying attention. And they elected a very quality council. I say without reservation, every last one of them is a person with some education, ability, skills. They do their homework, they read their material, they debate, they discuss, and they move on. That's the only way you're really going to repair it. You can have all the rules in the world. We signed a new code of conduct as a firm expression of our views about improving behavior in the council chamber and generally. But ultimately, it's about the people out there who choose to vote or not vote and looking at the people who are running. Okay.
And we know that has ripple effects, that kind of behavior, ripple effects right through the organization. What are you seeing in Nanaimo now with?
Well, certainly I can tell you again with confidence that the city staff are much happier. We had a very difficult time with the previous CAO. We hired Jake Rudolph, a fine fellow who's moving up the chain and head of the Municipal Managers Association. And his presence certainly has improved things very much. I think most people are pretty happy. Jake's taken the position until December 31st. And having that kind of management is important, but having a council that clearly appreciates the work of those who choose public service is important too. And that's the message we hear over and over again and on the streets from the citizens. You're doing a good job, or we hear you're doing a good job. We don't bother to watch council anymore. It's not as entertaining. Council meetings should not be entertaining.
Should not be an entertainment show, right? Shouldn't be a reality show.
And we laugh a lot together. And we work hard at making sure that we maintain our personal relationships as well as our professional relationships as politicians. I think we're very conscious of the fact that, as I've always said in my political career, it's an honor and a privilege to serve in public office, and you should behave and act accordingly.
That's a great perspective. And I'm sure Jake will appreciate hearing the credit you've given to the CAO's position as well, because it's so important for councils and their administration to have that kind of good relationship.
We used to say in Nanaimo, if you had a weak mayor and council and a strong CAO, things could move along. If you had a weak CAO but a strong mayor and a strong council, things could move along. But if you can have a strong council and a strong CAO, you can really make things happen.
That is indeed the secret to success, I think. So you talked about the honor of public service.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Share a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a lawyer by profession. I've always been a political animal, always interested in politics. I sought a nomination for the New Democratic Party for the BC legislature back in 1988, lost, and worked in the campaign of the person who won, and was elected myself in 91, served from 91 to 96, and then back in 2012, and steadily up until I resigned last November after the election, the municipal election.
So you're very clearly a person who believes in government and the power of government to make change and impact people's lives.
Look, it's crucially important. I mean, people have to understand. I mean, I appreciate the value of the private sector. As a lawyer, believe me, you eat what you kill. If you don't work, you don't survive. So I completely understand and appreciate the importance of the market and the people who work in the private sector. But the private sector cannot deliver services, nor should we expect to deliver the services that people need everywhere. And as T.C. Douglas said, something to the effect, what we do in government is we deliver collectively what we can't do individually. And whether it's water and roads and sewer and public services, and increasingly, as everyone is aware, contributions or assistance to public housing, which is a national crisis. There's no issue around the issue of homelessness and affordability across this country, the increasing issues around mental health and addiction, and what that means in terms of creating street homelessness that we haven't seen in the numbers, certainly in my lifetime in this country. So municipal government is a pretty exciting place to be in some respects, but very challenging as well.
Absolutely it is. So what made you decide to make the jump? Because often, we see people making the jump from local government to provincial or federal politics. We've seen a little bit of this in the last year, I think, in different communities, people making the jump from federal or provincial up to municipal, some folks might say.
And Nanaimo was a prime example. I was, at the time of the last provincial election, 17-year veteran of the BC legislature. People had already been asking me for well over a year prior to that, prior to my nomination to run in the last provincial election, if I would consider running for mayor because of what was happening. And they wanted, very flatteringly, my leadership in the community, and that was left, right, and center politically. I said, no. I was very charmed and flattered by it. And certainly, over time, my wife increasingly said it would be really nice to have you home. After the provincial election, the voices got louder, the visits more frequent, things weren't improving at City Hall, and there's a certain point at which you say yes. I candidly didn't feel I was going to be utilized in the near future in Victoria in a way that I felt my experience and background would merit. And when people in your own community say come home, you come home. And as I jokingly say to folks, when I was running to be MLA, at the best scenario, I used to get 2 out of 4 votes. And when I ran to be mayor, I got 3 out of 4 votes. So clearly the community supported that choice.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned earlier about some of the social challenges that communities are facing around homelessness and affordable housing and so on. What do you see? There's some solutions there that we haven't tapped into yet?
The solutions are clearly provincial in terms of jurisdiction. I don't expect municipal governments to build social housing or affordable housing, and nor should they. Municipal governments neither have the resources, the ability to do so in a meaningful way, but certainly you can assist in whether it be around the zoning of land or providing land on long-term leases, or even providing the land, if necessary, to provincial governments. I am hopeful that the federal government will recognize more clearly that we need a genuine old-fashioned national housing strategy. that recognizes the crisis around the opioid addiction and what that means in contributing to homelessness, all of those things. So we're looking to the feds to some extent. We're certainly looking and working with the province right now. The province has made significant commitments in our community in particular and other communities, and we have chosen very deliberately as a council to work with and not against our provincial government for obvious reasons.
Okay.
You've got to do the work for your citizens, and that means working with the people who can deliver and meet those needs.
And I think communities across the country would echo what you've said around the addiction issues and the need for the federal government to step up to the plate a little bit here to assist, because it is a crisis that we all need to jump in.
And it's a crisis also, and on the one hand, my heart bleeds for the people who are in that position, but you can't forget that the impact on the community for those folks who just see themselves as, honest, decent, hardworking people whose homes are being broken into, who are seeing things stolen, who live in fear in certain parts of our communities, you have to respect that they deserve security and peace in their homes, and that's not going to get better. If someone is in active addiction, there is no conscience to stop them from taking your son or your daughter's bicycle or breaking into your house and stealing your precious things. And when people don't feel safe, they tend to harden their hearts like Pharaoh in the Bible. And we don't really need that in this country. We need more compassion and more commitment because it's not going to get better on its own.
I agree. It's those ripple effects that we're seeing as a result of it, right? Well, thank you so much for coming in to chat. It has been a real pleasure getting to know you a little bit and hearing about the good things happening in Nanaimo.
Thank you. I assure you my pleasure, and particularly in this beautiful city and lovely weather. But I must say that it's a little greener in beautiful Nanaimo, so I encourage everyone to come west.
Okay. We'll have to make a trip to Nanaimo sometime soon. Thank you so much, Mayor Krog.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Gardner from Municipal World with Mayor Krog from City of Nanaimo. We share your stories.